My name is Gavin Evans, and this is my review of Smile. Now, I didn't see the trailer for this movie. I just saw like a 10-second teaser before I saw Crimes of the Future, but I started to hear really good things about it. I heard that this was an actual scary movie, and that got me incredibly excited. I haven't seen a movie that scared me in theaters for a couple years now. Like, I love Insidious. That is one of my favorite movies of all time. Not favorite horror movies, it's in my top 10 movies of all time. I just love it. I think it's complete blast filled with tension and atmosphere, and it just terrifies me every time I watch it. I love movies like The Conjuring and The Conjuring 2. I love Annabelle Creation. I love Lights Out. I love movies that actually scare me. And I'm worried that we're starting to lose those movies because every horror movie now seems to be a commentary on something and takes itself way too seriously. So I was hoping that this would be the movie to bring back scary movies. And unfortunately, it's everything I was fearing it would be. This is not a good movie. I've heard great things about it and I just don't understand why. It is. Well, let's get into it. But let's begin with my positives, and I do think the first 10 minutes is really solid. It sets up the story and the characters incredibly well, and it just has a lasting effect on you. So, great beginning. There's one effective jump scare at the end of the first act that I really enjoyed. And you know what? Jump scares get a bad rap, and I completely disagree with that. I think jump scares are really fun. As long as they're built up to properly and they're actually something scary, I enjoy them. So I liked this one jump scare, and there is some great creature design in the last 10 minutes of this movie, but that's as positive as I can get. I did not like this. I said I wanted it to be a scary movie, and it's anything but. With the exception of the one effective jump scare, it's just a movie that takes itself far too seriously. Why can't we have those movies again? Well, night one, spooky stuff happens. Night two, spooky stuff happens. You can talk shit about the paranormal activity movies all you want, but I miss that kind of movie. And what we got here was it starts off like it's going to be a horror movie, but then it just goes into this long investigation that I couldn't care less about. And I'm just like, go back to the scary stuff. The movie is called Smile. The gimmick is the smiling. And it's just giving you this plot that you just don't care about. And most importantly, it's something you can see coming from a mile away. There is nothing in this movie that surprised me. I had it all figured out within the first 5 minutes. Like, how could you not? It is just so obvious. Like, the main character is a therapist, and she's talking to someone suffering from trauma. So I'm just like, okay, so this movie's going to be about trauma. That's clear. But then the movie keeps beating you over the head. It's about trauma. Don't you get it? It passes down from one person to the next. Don't you get it? Don't you realize how deep it is? And it's just like, okay, stop. I get it. I get it. I get it. And the movie keeps doing that throughout the entire thing. And it's just far too much. It is not that deep. You know, if you're going to portray something like trauma, make sure it actually has some sort of impact on you. Because if you don't do that, then it just feels generic. Depending on the weight behind it is how generic or not generic it feels. You take a story like, you know which ones I'm going to mention, Last of Us 2, huge emotional impact, so much depth and nuance, great, like amazing work. Arcane, same thing. You take a movie like Manchester by the Sea that has so much weight behind it that fully explores these ideas. But if you want to go into horror movies, you can talk about movies like The Orphanage or The Witch or Come Play that has ideas on display that it fully explores with emotional weight behind it. And here you just get none of that. No matter how hard it tries, it never rises above generic and cliche. And that's a real bummer because the movie spends so much time on it. And like I said, so much of this movie is an investigation. And it just feels like, you know, when you watch a movie like Don't Be Afraid of the Dark, when they're trying to figure out what's going wrong. So there's a scene where they go to the library and they find everything out there. And it's a really effective tool that I enjoy. But this movie is that 5-minute montage stretched out for over an hour. And it's just answers that you already see coming. And in fact, they also introduce some rules to the movie that actually meddle the metaphor that it's going for. So, for as much time as they devoted to it, they didn't really give it all too much attention. So there's that. And the main character I found to be so frustrating because there'll be scenes where she has piles of evidence that lean in her favor, that can really help her out, that can get people to see her point of view. And then as soon as she opens her mouth, she's just like, I'm cursed. There's evil everywhere. Here's a dead body. Like, what are you doing? It just got to the point where I was just frustrated and I couldn't care less about the main character anymore because she was just saying and doing every wrong thing. You take a movie like The Invisible Man where you've got the same situation, but they allow you to buy into it a lot more with that movie. That's not the case here. I will also say that this movie is way, way, way too long. It's almost 2 hours long, and for the entire second half, I kept checking my Fitbit, like, is this going to end? Tighten it up. Make it an hour and 20 minutes. Because also the fact that this movie is as stagnant and as one note as it is, it just feels so much longer than it is as well. So, yeah, and then we get to the ending of the movie, and if you don't see the ending coming, then you haven't seen any horror movie ever. It's just so predictable and it's very frustrating. The way the movie should have played out is that it should have had the same 10 minutes, and then the main character goes on leave and spooky stuff starts happening, and it plays out like a typical haunted house movie. But then she starts to realize that there might be more to it, and that's when we get the information dump in the last act, and then you can be like, oh, so it was about trauma the whole time. That would be a much better structured, paced, and entertaining and scary movie than what we got. So there's that. The cast didn't impress me all too much. We've got Josie Bacon, who's Kevin Bacon's daughter, and she doesn't do a bad job. I just don't think she has as much screen presence as I would like her to have. She's fine. You've got Jesse T. Usher, who really doesn't have anything to work with. You've got Kyle Gannar, who has nothing to work with. I didn't think he was impressive. And you've got a bunch of other people I didn't really care about. The only other one I'm going to make note of is Kal Penn, because I like the Howard and Kumar movies. I like How I Met Your Mother, so I'm just like, it's been a while since I've seen him in something. So it's nice for him to be in a movie again. But look, this movie is not as good or as scary as you've heard. It's a very forgettable movie. There's a couple decent moments, but it's nowhere near as scary as it should have been. The movie focuses way too much on this investigation that I couldn't care less about. You know everything that you need to know about the movie at the start, so nothing surprises you. It beats you over the head with its ideas on trauma without having any real commentary on it, except it gets passed down from one person to the next. It's way too long. It's just a movie that did nothing for me. So I'm going to go ahead and give Smile a 3 out of 10. Okay, did this movie make you smile? Let me know in the comments down below. Make sure you like, make sure you comment, make sure you subscribe. Stay tuned for some more videos soon, and Gavin out.